Sudan has been grappled by a devastating humanitarian crisis since mid-April 2023, when intense fighting broke out between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces in Khartoum and other cities and towns. Since then, the conflict has killed and injured thousands of people. It has also displaced millions across the country, with many living in very difficult conditions. Humanitarian agencies have been doing their best to assist the millions affected by the fighting. According to Doctors Without Borders Secretary General Christopher Lockyer, who recently visited the region, more aid needs to be delivered quickly to the affected communities.
We have testimony and evidence of acute malnutrition throughout the installations that we have in Darfur and around Sudan. So it's undoubtedly a really severe situation which will likely get worse over the coming months if we don't flood Darfur with more food. And really what we're seeing here is a catastrophe of severe proportions in terms of the humanitarian needs, but we're also seeing a global humanitarian failure in terms of the response. The needs are acute across the board, whether that is in terms of feeding people or treating patients, and yet the response that we're seeing globally to this need is minuscule compared to what needs to be done.
Famine has already been declared in parts of Darfur, including at the Zamzam camp for displaced people near the North Darfur capital El Fasher, which has seen some of the war's fiercest fighting. According to the UN's refugee agency, an estimated 11 million people have been displaced by fighting across Sudan. Nearly 3 million of them have sought safety in Chad, Egypt and South Sudan. Displaced people's camps lack adequate healthcare and humanitarian aid. Aid agencies say there are catastrophic levels of malnutrition in some of the hardest hit parts of the country. MSF says more funding and political goodwill is needed to help the people of Sudan.
But what my journey tells me is the fact that it was possible to cross the border from Chad into Darfur. It was also possible to move around a large part of Darfur. Now, this is only a glimpse of Sudan as a whole, but nonetheless, in that area, in that significant area of Darfur, a lot more can be done. I think there's several reasons, and that we need to challenge ourselves to get over those constraints or perceived constraints. Certainly, there's an attention or a lack of attention on Sudan, and it's important to draw that attention to Sudan. There are funding questions, yes, but at the same time, I think there is an energy and a prioritization and a political willingness to be able to respond, which is at the core of it.
Efforts to restore peace have yielded little in recent years, and aid agencies are worried that humanitarian crisis could get worse unless aid is urgently delivered to those most in need. Nick Mudimba, CGTN.